Okay. To today's webinar called the Transforming Accessibility, Locally Led Mapping, and Humanitarian and Climate Action. My name is Takeshi Kumino. I serve as a chairperson to ADRRN, who's a co-convener of today's webinar. Um, just a little bit of the background of why we're organizing this webinar. Um, the communities that we serve in our region are compounded with the climate and various disaster risks. Um, but the various technologies, tools are still not equipping our colleagues who are at the front line, who's actually leading the response. And that includes the use of the spatial data and various analysis that can enhance our response and risk reduction. We have various examples of locally led mapping, use of the geospatial data, use of the drones. And we have our colleagues who are actively working to disseminate such know-how and technology so that more people can use such technology and benefit from that. So, as ADRN, we don't believe that the localization is just about funding. It's also about these data. It's about having that ownership and people can use such tools for the work that they do. And we believe it's possible. And one of the ways to do that is about these co-sharing, co-learning. And we're really glad to be working with the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap. And we believe this is really a good start of our collaboration. So we would like to do our best in learning from each other and also having a lively discussion on where our collaboration will take us next. So I would like to introduce Bernard, who comes from the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, who's co-organizing this webinar. So Bernard, if you can also give your remark.
Thanks a lot, Takashi. I'm Bernard Heng, program specialist from Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, more specifically the Asia Pacific Regional Hub. I'll share a little more about our organization, its structure, and the work that we're doing to help improve data access and data used by local communities later. But I wanted to tell you a little more about why I'm so excited about this webinar. I'm going to pull you all a bit back a few months to December last year when ADRRN invited us to the Regional Humanitarian Partnerships Week in Thailand. And we heard from so many different partners on what they're doing on the ground. And I realized, hey, the rhetoric of why involving communities is no longer there. Because we have shifted from explaining and telling people why communities are important to now talking about how can we better involve communities. And I was very excited about this transition towards more meaningful partnerships with local actors, local communities, and local stakeholders. So now the question is not why communities, but how to work with communities. And I'm excited to be joined by so many different speakers looking at so many different technologies, methodologies on how can we involve communities, how can we work with communities and data to ensure that our projects are ground up and address their needs. So I'm very excited to see all of the different participants from all parts of Asia Pacific. And I think we're very excited to not just share with you, but also hear from you, like the work that you're doing on the ground itself, the kind of novel, innovative approaches that you have been tackling. So feel free to share with us on the chat itself. Feel free to ask us tough questions, and we're excited to see how this could accumulate into stronger partnerships in our part of this world. Back to you, Takeshi.
Thank you, Bernard. We're also equally excited about this. So, yeah, let's get started. So, everyone, we have four speakers. Um, the first speaker we have from Community World Service Asia in Pakistan, Danish Batul. She'll be giving us her presentation titled Navigating Crisis with Local Knowledge, Making Humanitarian and Climate Action Accessible for All. Danish, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Am I audible to everyone?
Very well.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning and hello everyone. I'm Danish Putul Zedi and I'm representing Community World Service Asia. And today I will share that how Community World Service Asia is managing locally led climate initiatives in terms of mapping and how this locally led mapping is transforming data into the actual practical solutions. So as you all know, I have categorized my presentation by keeping in view the different and adventurous climatology of Pakistan. Like at the same time, we are facing hailstorm, and at the other side, we are facing extreme heat wave, drought, and gulfs. So the climate reality and also the key data statistics are very essential to understand that climatology is changing in Pakistan each and every day. So Pakistan ranked among like most climate vulnerable country according to the German Watch Index. We are the fifth most vulnerable country to climate change. Yet we are not contributing anything to the climate and the global emissions, but still we are paying a huge price for that. And also you see that we have drought, we have heat waves, flash floods, and we have disease outbreaks every year through these climate incidents that repeatedly happening in Pakistan. In Sidran, Pakistan is especially more prone to climate change. And also, where we are working in Sindh, we can see that the temperature rise is extremely changing every year, and the crops calendar is just being frequently changes due to this climate change and the weather situation. It's mainly not about the data; it's about the local responsibility and the understanding that why this data is very important and why climate is important to address in terms of data digitalization, in terms of data accountability and ownership. So also, if I categorize it into the northern part of Pakistan, where we are working in Gilgit-Baltistan and in Upper Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where our provinces are more prone to the climate reality. So the glacier meltings is frequently happening in Gilgit-Baltistan, where CWSA is currently working, and also we are experiencing that each and every year the temperature rise is changing, and every year we can just see that the temperature rise is affecting the crops. The winter rainfall dropped by 15 to 20% in last 30 years, and also the data is not showing the reality that how we can change our climate priorities, how we can adopt our adaptation patterns in terms of changing our work towards climate resilience communities. Still the data and the interventions that currently is being led by the governments and different partners is a lot we can manage, but still there is a gap between the data and the politics and the currently the communities that they want and that they want to do. Also, if I talk about Afghanistan, because Pakistan and Afghanistan CWSA is mainly working on this climate change, and also CWSA is invested a lot in terms of like QGIS mapping, in terms of data analysis, in terms of capacity building of partners in data digitalization. So Afghanistan ranks among the world's most climate vulnerable nation, and also they are facing recurrent droughts, flash floods, and extreme temperature swings. According to the German Watch, UNEP, WPF, and OCHA, over 80% of Afghanistani people they are dependent on climate-sensitive agriculture. Yet, 50% of the humanitarian adaptation measures can be taken so far, and the communities are still dependent on this climate-sensitive agriculture and depending on the weather situation. So the question is like this climate is not just the weather, and this crisis is not just about the weather, the rainfall, the gloves, the drought, the heat waves, but the question is about that how this local data and local leadership and local solutions that we can adopt by keeping in view our small or big pilot programs. So I'm going to share the few examples that we have initiated in our programs in Afghanistan, in Sidran Sindh, and also what we are planning to do in Gilgit-Baltistan. It's more about that how we are enabling our communities to take ownership of their data by using the technology and by using that locally handwritten maps, that how we can make them turn into the QGIS and how they can train their policymakers, to their local community groups to take informed decisions about the data. So the challenge, as I have mentioned, that mostly NGOs, including CWSA and our partners, we are like more focused on the flood-prone irrigated areas. And result, we received a very little support on irrigation or in growth zones because of the high vulnerabilities of such disasters in both regions. And also we have short-term programs that mostly, give funding on the most the need-based cost, and mostly the rehabilitation, the cash for work, or the food shelter is the main thematic areas where whenever we are facing such situation, the climate incidents and the situation in Pakistan. And also I believe that community is now losing resilience after this withdrawal of short-term programs. And also we can see that the big challenge is weak integration of multi-sectoral programs. Like we have Ministry of Climate Change here, we have One Health program here, we have National Disaster Risk Management authorities here, but the integration in this multi-sectoral approach is quite weak in terms of providing the appropriate services to the respective communities. And also if I talk about the climate strategy of CWSA or adaptation approach, is a 6-year plan that the goals talks about that how we are reaching out to the grassroots level community, how we are building resilience through dialogue and forums. So one of the very important goal that actually address that we have to enhance the capacity by promoting risk informed development, anticipatory actions, and climate adaptive technologies, and fostering research and innovation to actively adopt to the climate change. So this is what we believe. This is how we are transforming our communities towards digitalization in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, and also in other parts. So the process, what is the process that we usually follow? The process is that we verify through the community engagement. We have organized community groups, and we form the disaster risk reduction or climate action committees. Like in Southern Saints, we have DRR committees. In northern areas of Pakistan, we have climate action committees who are very proactively working and providing us data, providing us, the indigenous knowledge repository each and every single day. And also we provide them awareness workshops that how this data is important and how this handwritten and local data can turn into the digital solutions, and how it can help to the millions of communities in just few seconds. So we also like providing training to our partners like the local NGOs and our community groups, those who are formed already in different areas of Pakistan on QGIS or on GIS mapping or on hotspot identification through artificial intelligence. So if I just give you the overview of the work that we have done in Umarkot, so we have responded in various elements and in various sections. As you see on my screen, that emergency response and mapping is one of the area where we have accessed drought, locust infestation, and flood affected areas in rural Umarkot. Umarkot is one of the targeted area where CWSS is working and approaching through different integrated programs on climate education, livelihood generation, and DRR. So also we provided targeted aid to the vulnerable families by keeping in view this mapping that we have done through GIS application. And also we collaborated with different partners because we see that disaster management is not solely the responsibility of government and the relevant public institutions. So we join hand with them. We address and assess their climate risk, water scarcity, and flood use special mapping for risk analysis, that this area is more prone, and where we have seen the intensity of waterborne, and this area is more prone to the communicable diseases, and this area is more prone to the lack of services. So we use this spatial mapping analysis to analyze the risk in this disaster management response in Sindh, and especially in the 2022 flood where Pakistan has suffered a lot, and we have around like 33 million people who were suffered and who were displaced, especially in Sindh, to the recurring droughts in the southern parts of the Pakistan. And also, if I see that monitoring and evaluation, it's one of the core component that we we coach and we network with our partners, that if we are using this GIS technology, it will help us to monitor and evaluate our programs on emergency response, on cash assistance to the affected household, and also the flood analysis with different public department, including the provincial and the national disaster risk management in the Sidran Sindh. So how we are enabling this action, as I have mentioned, this slide is the more of similar. So what are the more area where we responded? If I give you four or two and three examples, so you can see that health infrastructure mapping, it was very important because we have like few referral services that CWSA was providing during that flood response. So the QGIS mapping help us to monitor the health centers, that these are the health centers including Jomo Noori dispensary and some union consuls that mentioned here, Fakir Abdullah, Sekhro and Kaplor. So we have received these facilities from the government, but we map them just to provide the facility to our local community so that they can reach out to the services for their health and for their well-being to these dispensaries. And also you can see that through this hotspot mapping, we can also analyze that which dispensary has more crowd and which area has more diseases in terms of and in comparatively to the other areas. So this QGIS mapping helped us a lot in terms of monitoring this health center. And also we have collaborated with different government departments like Primary Healthcare Services Initiative for managing this spatial data initiatives for the health interventions, and it helped a lot. And it also gave them referral and more patients to make those services functional. Those were not functional at all when CWSA took charge of those services, though the community gap was that obvious thing that we helped through this spatial data analysis. And also if we see that education support is a very much a common theme in our programs, we have coordinated with education department in Sindh using QGIS map for school coordinate across the districts that improves the social services through better data analysis. And also these are not the social services, it's more of retention of girls to the schools in terms of building that gender gap within that particular districts where CWSA is working. So we approach the community through this school data coordinate, that this school is providing food, this school is providing free books to the students, so that retention of the girls especially to these schools was high in numbers when we use this GPS coordinates for the data analysis in education systems also. And also because ADRRN is also managing, and it's our quality and accountability hub, and being the representative of CWSA, and we are ensuring that quality and accountability is one of the area where we prioritize in our training, and we just see that this group is trained and this group is taking informed decisions in terms of improving quality and taking accountability of their work. We mainly focus on the local organizations, and also we trained our staff, we trained our community groups in technical data management skills similar for GIS mapping, for spatial data analysis, and also we are moving ahead towards artificial intelligence hotspot areas identification in education, in health, in disaster, and in also in emergency response. So we believe in capacity building. We have targeted and trained local NGOs, community members on this QGIS software for humanitarian action and to inform this risk management system in Pakistan, and also how to collect this digital data and which tools are important, the digital maps and tools for field teams to enhance accuracy in assessment, response, and planning. So if I calculate this, the turnout and the turnover in terms of the manual data and the digital data, so we can see a lot of potential in terms of response from our communities in terms of providing accurate service delivery to the respective target audience. So if I talk about Afghanistan, so Afghanistan use the same terminology, but their target audience is very different. So they use like hazard mapping using QGIS. They have handwritten manuals, that hazards mapping that you call the pocket booklets that they used. So we provided them trainings on QGIS to convert the local maps on this QGIS technology. And also they have their DRR teams that uses QGIS for the flood and landslide prone areas, because the area in Bamiyan Ko Gade, it's one of the area which is more prone to the landsliding. mapping. So the DRR team was trained on QGIS to assess this area through this mapping. And also they have analyzed satellite imagery and digital elevation models. They have created these innovative models just to see the pictures, that where they are, where their community is, where is the disaster and the prone area. And also they have generated contour maps to identify the risk prone areas in the zones in the Koga de Bamyan. Bamyan was the main area where CWSA was managing this operation, and this operation is still continue with the support of community and with the support of government of Afghanistan. So also they have disseminated, because the community there is not very aware with the digitalization, and they are not well educated. So the community dissemination and awareness was one of the key component where CWSA team focused. They have finalized DRR maps, shared with community members, and also they have provided them awareness workshops that how they can use this map for the preparedness and response, and how they can build the capacity of their team for the trainings for the DRR sectors, including Kabul International University, where they have introduced these maps. So if I can just show you some of the pictures, this is the curriculum that CWSA introduced in Kabul International University. It was a complete 2 years master's program on DRRR and anticipatory risk management. So around like 800 student graduates every year through this GIS mapping, through this spatial data analysis, and through this DEM model approach. And also these are the some pictorials where you can see that the past hazard history was manually written, and this QGIS map shows that how one can easily enable to understand that which area requires more services and where do we stand in terms of scaling, contouring, and numbers. And also you can see student and a community mobilizer of CWSA. She's being trained on this spatial data analysis. And also this is how we approach our communities. See, they have still the paper in their hands just to understand why QGIS is important, why data is important, and how we are transforming in terms of manual things to the digitalization. And also these are some of the anticipatory action that currently CWSA is building capacity of our partners. This is a picture from Rescue 1122 Punjab, Lahore, where they are providing these equipments to the community, to the partners, just to understand that how emergency services in rescue can help the communities in long term. So we provided exposure visit to the Sindh Provincial Disaster Management Authority and the Gilgit-Baltistan Disaster Management Authority to learn from their dashboard, to learn from the tools that they have. So these are few areas. You can see this is a well, and they're using technology, to see the depth and to see that how they can rescue people. And also we have RO filtration plant programs in Umarkot, and also we are going to initiate in Gilgit-Baltistan very soon. So we are using some bioengineering and nature-based solutions interventions according to the IUCN standards, where we are raising awareness with the community groups and with our government partners. And also, the era of digitalization is changing every day. So we have introduced AI training on animation, on digitalization in 30 schools of Gilgit-Baltistan in Hunza district, where we have formed our nature clubs in schools. So these nature clubs will not only serve the purpose of creating and raising awareness verbally or through manual books, but also we are providing them technological solutions to the climate change. So this is just a good start of investing more in education, and especially in school education. And also we are hopeful that we will receive more support from our partners in terms of technical capacity building of our partners in Gilgit-Baltistan and also in Sindh and Afghanistan. So I'll conclude quickly with the recommended actions area by keeping in view our experiences and the lesson learned. If we see that GIX expansion is a very must area, and it's one of the recommended action where we can scale, where we can have locally led mapping to additional underserved district in Sindh and Afghanistan. And also we can see that sectoral integration and the cross-sectoral cooperation harmony is very important to formalize this GIS data. For instance, if PDMA is doing the same data, if CWSA is doing and working on the same data, why we just can't join hands and do one data analysis and one capacity building series of trainings for our partners? Definitely for this we need support, we need a long-term partnership, and we need to understand that this purpose will serve in long terms and to address DRR and climate change issues in the region. And also capacity building, CWSA believes in the capacity building, and in all the forums we approach our audience and we make sure that their capacity building is being enhanced through different trainings on digitalization, like Hunza is one example. And also in our few trainings on nature base, we are trying to build it more relevant to the technology and to the technological solutions. And also the water resilience, we have RO filtration plants, but what about the maintenance, what about the cost, what about the scalability? So we have to scale more in terms of providing safe drinking water to our communities. So it's a very good model that we establish in Umarkot, but also it should be replicated in other parts of Pakistan. We have young people, we have school. I always believe why schools are so big in Pakistan, especially the public schools, because they have data, they have human resource, they have this technical expertise to roll out things. So that's why we are emphasizing on more schools engagement, because schools are centered within the community's location, and schools can serve as climate hubs in southern Pakistan and in Afghanistan and also in northern areas of Pakistan. And also partnerships, we are expanding our partnerships just to learn from IUCN, from Climate Action Forum, from Ministry of Climate Change, including from ADRRN. So just to exchange this harmony and this cooperation, that how we can train and strengthen our collaboration with our different stakeholders and audience. And also monitoring and evaluation, it's one of the area I think where we invest more in terms of building more climate resilience communities and models for sustainability and scalability. So thank you so much everyone for the support. And this is the picture from our Blossom Festival in Hunza. And here I conclude my presentation with a bundle of thanks to ADRRN and HOT, Humanitarian Open Street Mapping Team. So over to you guys, and I'm open for the questions and answers.
Thank you. Thank you, Danish. Wonderful, wonderful presentation. And for everyone, if you have questions, please put in the chat. After the presentations, we'll have a Q&A session and a discussion session where we'll have a lively discussion. But Danish, your work of using these mapping to actually tangibly link people to the services in the community, and your strong collaboration with academia, I think is very inspiring. So thank you for presenting.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. Next we have Suraj, who's the executive director of the Institute of Himalayan Risk Reduction, IHRR, in Nepal. He'll be presenting with the title Locally Led Mapping for Anticipatory Action, Integrating Citizen Science, Crowdsourcing, and UAV Intelligence. And I understand you guys do lots of analysis also. So I look forward to learning that. Thank you, Suraj. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Takashi, for the kind sharing on what are we doing at this moment. So I hope my screen is visible. And namaste, good morning, good afternoon for people joining from different time zone. This is Suraj. And I would like to thank, first of all, ADRRN and especially HOT team to organize this webinar and also give us an opportunity to share some of our work. So we are an Institute of Himalayan Risk Reduction who are promoting innovations and science-based decision-making in disaster risk reduction and management. And there are key focus areas where our institute specializes. That is first on the understanding risk. That is also something the Sendai framework also prioritize the pillar one. And then making the use of frontier technologies and also co-designing. I don't just say designing, but it's co-designing sustainable solutions and then working towards the resilient infrastructures. So this is how we are working. And if I have to talk about Nepal, I think you all are aware about Nepal. The elevation of the country ranges from 60 meters to 8,848.86 meters. So the amount of diversity that you can get in Nepal is immense. And because of which we are prone to a number of disasters. And we also believe that we are also living with the disasters because our civilizations, our all the communities, if you just look into it, we are almost living with the landslides. We are living in the river settlement. So this is something that is very common in case of Nepal, and Nepal is also like prone to multi-hazard risk, ranging from flood, landslides, heat wave, cold waves, and so many other things. So if I just turn down the database of the past 50 years of data in Nepal, then you will get the result that landslide has been a prominent disaster in the country, and almost like if you take an average of 50 years of data, the more than 110 deaths are there per year if you take it over the period of 50 years. And if I have to talk about the floods, we have done a lot of work, especially in the flood early warning system. But again, it used to be above 90, but we are able to reduce it to around 60 or 70 range. But the problem is we need to work on the small basins. Major river basins are now equipped with the early warning systems, but the problems of flash flooding and so many other small basins are there. And this is the spatio-temporal distribution of the landslide that we again collected through citizen science and also with the help of our crowdsourcing platforms. So in Nepal, we have a dedicated platform from the Ministry of Home Affairs, that's Bipat portal, which keeps in track with all kinds of events that happens in the country. But the problem is we do not have a very specific spatial data sets of that region. For instance, if there is landslide in a given local level, the centroid of that local level is available rather than the actual spatial locations of those kind of events. So this is something that we are kind of having some problems in having proper inventory. And then there are also some data, only the fatals or the events that results in the casualties are only recorded, because of which there are so many problems in correlating with and also developing thresholds in the region because we don't have enough data. So looking in terms of having this kind of a barrier, so instead of a Himalayan risk reduction, together with different stakeholders have been working in the region. And if I have to summarize the challenges, it's about the lack of quality of the data sets that we have. Even if we have the data sets, we are also not able to communicate it or turn into action. And also the accessibility of early warning information to all the last mile communities, and also being the terrain and also the difficulties to intervene in the hard to reach areas, and also some other problems are there. So for this, we are coming up with this citizen science approaches, and it is completely locally led. The daily individuals are being converted into scientific contributors, and for this you can see there we have developed a local soda bottle that was again reused for the purpose of rainfall measurement. For instance, there are so many information that we get, but again it is very unclear. For example, if the forecast says that it is going to rain heavily, so what does exactly the heavy rain means? Community are actually unaware of it. So it is our an attempt and it is an initiative that we have launched, where the simple soda bottle could actually help you in identifying, okay, this is the water, this was the amount of rainfall that was there in the past 24 hours or something like that. Besides, you can see the local bamboo where we can get in abundance, and this can also be used for the water level measurement. Besides, in order to measure the flow, we are using small plastic balls that is helping us to estimate some speed of the river or the channel that is there. So this is the low cost hardware solution, while we also have a software solution that keeps in track with all these kind of data that we obtain from this low cost hardware solution. So if I have to share you how we are working. The working modality is working exclusively with the community. So with the support from ADRRN, from CIDRA project, we are also implementing this in the very remote region. You can see there, there's a rural municipality. We are talking with the local communities. We are printing all those GIS maps and then asking and then doing some participatory risk mapping. So that is also helping us in developing good inventories and also identification of the risks in the region. So these are the capacity building session. We do outreach program in schools. You can see there people from different backgrounds participating it for the citizen science initiatives. Besides, these are the field level intervention that we do in the field and then collect the data. And we don't just collect the data, because data is something that you need to convert into action. So we believe in converting data to action. So you can see our platform actually visualizes the data in this way. The data that is shared by the citizen scientists are reflected in this platform that is able to collect some spatial inventories. For instance, I have shared an example. So whenever there is some kind of landsliding, people just report it from their mobile app, then it comes to the system, and again it is shared with the local government, who also takes in charge of all these initiatives as well. So this is the modality that I just shared, and I was just talking about how do we make the use of data. So you can see this is a single municipality. We generally regarding the terrain and so many other regions, the available hydrometeorological stations is not sufficient for us. So we deploy our citizen scientists throughout the municipality. We collect the data for the certain duration of time. For instance, in Nepal, it's monsoon season from June to September, October. We collect the data, and based on those data, we do some technical analysis. You can see here. So this is the spatial distribution of the rainfall that were actually identified by our citizen scientists. So based on the data that they have collected, they can now share that, okay, in this municipality, in our municipality, one of the ward gets least amount of rainfall, but this ward gets a higher amount of rainfall. And we were also very amazed by the amount of spatial variation that we are seeing in our region. For instance, the region in this ward number 5 is getting around 1600 to 1700, 2000 millimeter of rainfall, while the ward number 1 and 7, you can see it's getting around 3000 millimeter within the single monsoon season itself. So there is huge variation in the hilly municipalities. Similarly, in the plain Tarai municipalities also, there are few variations that we are actually assessing. And based on all those data that were sent here, you can see here, these are the red dots are the events when there were landslides. So based on the antecedent rainfall condition and what was the amount of rainfall, we are developing some correlations and thresholds for the landslides and also for the flash floods as well. So we also compared the results from our citizen science data with the standard tipping bucket, or what you call standard instrument weather stations, and the results are very promising. So that's why we are kind of promoting this kind of approaches. So besides that, same citizen scientists are also contributing for developing the spatial inventory of the flooding, inundation. You can see here, these are the GPS points where there were such kind of events, and we have the images there on the picture as well. Similarly, for the landslides also, we are developing such kind of inventories that is helping us to identify what are the relations of rainfall with the landslides and so many other components. So we are scaling these approaches across the local levels, and we are still making some statement with the production of this kind of data. We are developing some scientific manuscripts so that we can have wider dissemination, and then we are also engaging with the government stakeholders so that we can onboard this process. Besides, we have also developed a product which is also called as digital and spatial technologies for anticipatory action, and you can see there this is an approach that we are trying to bring some kind of paradigm shift from response-based approach to preparedness-based approach. So you can see here, based on the citizen science and also the local individuals, we are collecting data. We are doing household surveys. You can see on the images as well. I'll just show you another image. Sorry. Okay, so with the help of crowdsourcing data, we are also digitizing the households. We are digitizing the critical infrastructures. We are organizing mapathon programs, onboarding school children, and also the local community members. So this is something that we are also prioritizing for the crowdsourcing purpose. You can see there. Besides, we also do household survey. We train the local volunteers. You can see on the image as well. The houses that are more prone to flood gets red color, whereas those having those who are less vulnerable gets a different color, and those houses which are very resilient to flooding or any kind of disasters, they get green color. So we are kind of bringing this traffic color code combination by analyzing the vulnerability, exposure, and then the risk components as well. So you can see here, this is the visualization of the households. This is the power of data that we collect from the households, communities, and then again use it for data-based decision making. So because of this, we had there was a very interesting event in Nepal. Almost like 624 millimeters of rainfall was there in a single day. And it was a cloudburst after, like, it is the highest accumulated rainfall in a single day in the history of Nepal. And because with the help of this kind of data, we were able to do early evacuation, we were able to send IBR messages, we were able to deploy our volunteers, and again, then do some targeted approach for evacuation and so many other purposes. So besides that, after the event, our volunteers again contribute to us. So they go to different houses, they check the water levels, and based on the level of inundation from the plinth level of the houses, they send us the data. So based on the different data that we gather, then we develop depth damage curve of that region and also derive physical vulnerability in that region. That is also helpful to quantify or estimate the amount of losses and damages that we are incurring, that any disaster is incurring. So these are some of the pictures that our volunteers work with. Okay, and besides that, we are also making the use of frontier technologies such as drones. We are all aware about the comparative advantages of drones over the satellite images, and especially when the time there are very cloud cover is there, this kind of technologies become very quick deployable solutions, which can also generate very high resolution data. So you can see there's a big landslide if you search Nepal in Google map. And then if you go to the central part of the Nepal, then you will be able to visualize this one of the largest landslides in Nepal. It's called Yapche Poiro. So this is very active landslide. And we felt like this kind of landslide needs to be studied well. So we did some drone mapping back in 2017, and then we recently did it in 2022, 2023, and now we are doing some kind of assessments about what are the changes that we are having, what is the amount of landslide or slides that is happening in that region. So you can see there, we are also estimating the slides or maybe erosions taking place in that landslide. So UAV data is also being used for this kind of purposes. Besides, I would also like to share one interesting initiative that we did during the Melamsi Debris Flow 2021. So let me show you an image. So this is the image from 2020, when everything looked very normal, a very small and gentle river over there. But back in 2021, we had a cascading event, and that event resulted into such kind of devastating scenario. So you can see this is the image that we captured through our drone images, and you can see the amount of deposition of the debris that happened during that moment, during the cascading event. So with the help of, we have also visualized this in the story, in the ArcGIS story map that is also published. You can check it there. And there are also certain publications regarding this. And with the help of these high resolution data sets, we were able to gather the extent of flood that resulted in damages in those regions. We also quantified what were the number of houses that were actually affected by this flood, and so many other components. So yeah, with this, I would like to now come to the end of my presentation. And again, for the ways forward, we are actually working towards strengthening the open data ecosystem. We are generating data. So not just generating data, we are also keeping it public, open, so that different researchers can work into it and different stakeholders can come in together. So we also realize that there is a need of very standardized protocols so that there is no duplication, there is no data, there is proper interoperability among the different data sets that we collect. And also, Components like citizen science is very important, so we can integrate in early warning systems. And then we are also investing in youth and local innovation, conducting hackathons, mapathons, and fellowship programs. And then we are also promoting AI based analytics based on the data that the local community or the local people have generated. And then we are also committed to adhering with the ethical and data security considerations. And with this, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Raj. It's really inspiring to learn about your work, particularly how you are, um, transforming the local community and leadership so that they become part of the solution or they're leading the solution. And that gets sort of embedded into the local disaster governance system. I think that's fascinating. And how you use this technology to keep track of various risks. For example, the progression of the landslide that you were talking about, understanding the disaster impact pattern through this drone imagery and its analysis, the sediment, deposition and all that. It's really interesting. Thank you so much, Raj, for sharing your case.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Turning to the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team. So Bernard, who's the program specialist at the HOT, he will explain about the work of HOT and also various tools, services that they provide. So we would love to learn what you guys do, Bernard. So over to you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Takeshi. I'm actually very happy to have come after Suraj and having heard from him on how he is working with citizens all across Nepal to contribute open data and to work with them to also use data to support disaster response. Um, but before I go on, I just want to take this chance to do some admin also. I'm sharing again in the chat. I'm requesting for our participants to do two things. First, please register attendance so that we have your email, we know where you're from, we can share with you some of the slides from the speakers. We can also catch up with you in the future if there are any more opportunities like this. Second, please also sign up for the upcoming Mentimeter. We're a little short on time, so we would like to dive straight into the Mentimeter activity and to focus a little more about what we're hearing from you later on. Okay, now that I'm done with my admin, let me just proceed to my slides. I do not have a lot of time, so I can go on and on for hours to talk about everything that we do. But having heard from our other speakers talking about their different projects in different parts of Asia Pacific, I want to focus a little more about the technologies that we have at HOT itself, how some of our partners are employing it, including IHRR. And I will showcase a little some of the projects that we have worked on. But the point is to give you a quick sensing of the slides and what buttons to click later on so that you know where to access, because I want to share the slides with you after this session. So let me just start. So at HOT, we have 4 different regional offices around the world. One in Latin America, 2 in Africa, and 1 in the Asia Pacific region, from which I am. And primarily, we are an organization that works with communities to not only develop open geospatial data, but also to use open geospatial data for 3 purposes: for humanitarian responses, for climate action, and for development work. And I think primarily at the end of the day, there is still a lot of regions in not just globally, but also in Asia Pacific that are unmapped, that lacks data. One good example that I have was from last year's Myanmar earthquake response. When we were activated, we realized that there were up to 85% missing data in some of the earthquake affected townships. And what that meant is that then local humanitarian responders had to either rely on very outdated data, or rely on AI generated data, which unfortunately continues to be a little problematic and challenging for humanitarian use. And at Hall itself, we have a suite of different tools, initiatives, and capacity building programs with the sole objective of ensuring that your communities, your local stakeholders can participate meaningfully in not only collecting the data, but also understanding the data and using the data to address the needs on their needs on their on the ground itself. And one of the things that we're proud of is our full stack of open source mapping solution. And it starts from the very beginning. It's an end-to-end process where it starts from the beginning where we work with communities to be able to collect open drone imageries, to be able to conduct the drone mapping themselves, to be able to then map using the drone imagery and collect even more specific data on the field, such as the number of building, the number of floors, the opening hours, what type of building is this? Is this a clinic? Is this a pharmacy? Is this a healthcare facility? And ultimately to be able to process the data, to analyze the data and upload it on, for example, UMap, where everyone can use their browsers to access the data visualization, the map visualization. So I'm not going to go into too in depth right now. I'll go through point by point some of the examples of the technologies that we have so that it's a bit more exciting for you. But the point is that at the end of the day, this have to be accessible, low barriers to entry technologies that anyone, anywhere can access and use for their purposes. Great. So let's start with the first, the first step of the process. Typically, some stakeholders, such as the UN or local disaster management authorities, will rely on advanced remote sensing technologies, including satellites, to collect the data. But the problem is this is not always accessible to everyone, and the cost is simply just too prohibitive for grassroots organizations to rely on. And one of the things that we try to do is look at, hey, drones, as Suraj has mentioned, it's very accessible. Drones at a cost of perhaps a USD $1,000 enables your organization and your communities to be able to collect imageries on the bi-weekly basis, for example. And what we saw was the benefit of then expanding remote sensing, aerial sensing and aerial imagery to areas that now are often neglected or lack the resources to cover. So this is where what I meant by, hey, the slides, I'm just running it through so that you know what buttons to click. So if you want to learn more about the different tools, just click on some of the links over here. And I will want to showcase, for example, the benefit of the drone imagery. Sorry, the bar is blocking me. So as you can see, I believe you can see my slides. So you'll be able to see the detail that the drone is able to cover, and this allows your stakeholders, your experts from far away, some disaster expert from the Europe, for example, or even your federal government, to be able to access and help you review some of these details and say that, hey, I love the detail. I love that we can go through in detail. And I love that we can now look at it and say that, hey, there's a particular issue in this part of the town, and there's another particular issue in another part of the town, for example. Takeshi, just to confirm, I hope you're looking at my drone 3D imagery.
Yeah. We are.
The moving eye. Okay. Yeah, I'm not very familiar with Zoom. I scared that I'm still stuck at the slides. Okay,
It's
going
not
back to the
moving
slide.
so smoothly, but then, yeah, we see the image. Oh, now,
The
yeah,
3D
this is
image.
much better. Yeah, this is much
Okay,
better.
okay. So yes, thanks a lot for that. I'm not very familiar with Zoom. But the point is that the 3D image, the 3D drone imagery captured now allows you to work even better with people remotely to help you access some of these details and tell if there's any issue with the area. So I think these are just some examples. Another one that I want to show you is that the detail that we are able to capture on the ground itself. So this can be then uploaded to UMap. I'll tell you a little more about it so that everyone can review the density, the kind of alleyways, and the kind of risks that are involved, for example, when it comes to settlements that are nearer to the water. So going back to the slides, I think that was the first step. Having now high resolution spatial data and imagery allows us to move to conducting remote mapping. So again, Hot Tasking Manager, you can click it over here just to go through what it means and perhaps go and experience it for yourself so that you can tell that, hey, this is something I'm excited about and I want to work with. Okay, rather than tell you, I read through the words itself, I will go through the demo. So if you look at Hot Tasking Manager over here, so this is an example of what you will see at the website. And all of our tools are accessible. Accessible not because you need a program, it's extremely complex. It's accessible because it's available either on your browser or on your mobile phone, allowing you to be able to tap onto it from anywhere by anyone. So being able to go through this, I can then click on the task itself, and I will be able to start mapping, for example, this particular building over here. And now, having mapped this building, I'm able to upload it to OpenStreetMap. You can visualize it on OpenStreetMap. Your stakeholders can download the data to use it for their own purposes on OpenStreetMap, making the data extremely accessible. And one thing I'm excited about the Hot Tasking Manager is your, let me just delete this. It's your ability to be able to break up the area into multiple different tasks so that you can work with 50 different volunteers, 100 different volunteers, or our thousands of volunteers at any time to help rapidly push out map data. So going back to the slides. So now that you have imagery, you have started the map and update the map data itself, you can go on to then use several different tools that we have, including AI, to help speed up your mapping process, to help validate your data on the ground using field mapping, for example. So you could work with ODK, you could work with WishID, you could work with Kobo Toolbox to add additional data. What is this facility? Is this a pharmacy? Is this a clinic? Is this a healthcare facility? For example, in ChatMap, we work with as you can tell on the map, for example, ChatMap is a tool that we based it off on WhatsApp. And in the recent Jamaica Hurricane Melissa disaster itself, we were able to work with the communities to update details on their locations that we cannot access with further information. They will be able to update how, for example, a particular area or road was blocked by a felled tree, and allow us and our responder to really then prioritize, hey, we can quickly move in to help resolve this issue. And now these are all then very accessible on UMap. You and your stakeholders, your partners can then upload all of this spatial data, this analysis onto UMap itself, which is again browser-based, allowing you to then understand like, hey, priority areas are within this area because these are where all of the different hazards are overlaid on each other. And this is an area that we should focus on before we move to other parts of the informal settlements in Dhaka, in this case, for example. So yes, I think we're very excited to have been able to work with so many different partners to leverage our tools in different parts of Asia Pacific. In Timor-Leste, because of the low-cost nature of our drone mapping, we are able to conduct mapping of seagrass habitats, a typically neglected coastal ecosystem that is very important to local livelihoods. In Myanmar itself, we were able to work with 3,000 plus volunteers to rapidly map more than 1.5 million buildings and more than 17 kilometers of roads across the earthquake-affected townships so that humanitarian responders on the ground have the right data to be able to inform their responses. And we are able to work with our diverse network of community volunteers to be able to help you work with these tools itself, help train some of your community leaders, and help engage your government stakeholders, for example, in leveraging all of these different open mapping tools. So again, I'm not going to dive too much into detail. I think my focus was to share with you all of the different technologies, give you a short and sweet demo of how it looks like. And you can feel free to access all of this on the slides itself, and of course, reach out to us for more information. So with that, thanks a lot, Takeshi. Should I move on to the next part? Or
All right,
sorry,
Bernard.
speaker 4. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much. And you guys have very interesting tools. I think we can have a discussion later on how we can apply. I think our colleagues on the call are also sort of visualizing how they can benefit from this as well. And as ADRN, we believe in the like a common vision that um, these technologies should not be something special and something expensive. It should be accessible to people at the front line and local organizations. So that's really the reason why, the colleagues who will be speaking next, who host the drone hub of ADRN, what they're actually trying to do is to transform that notion of drones being something special to drone being something normal or natural for local organizations to be able to benefit from. So, colleagues from ADRN Drones Hub, hosted by Humanitarian Aid International colleagues, they'll be presenting on drone mapping for humanitarian action from concept to operational reality. So I think it's Nahith who's going to speak together with Narendra and others. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you so much. Just give me a second to share my screen. Is my screen visible and am I audible?
Yes, you are audible and we can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much all. Like, good morning, good afternoon, all of you. And it's like really glad to hear all of your presentation, the kind of work all of you are doing. And my name is Nahid Begum, working for Humanitarian Solutions Hub as like a associate for the ADRRN Drone Hub and also collaborating with Humanitarian Aid International. So here we are just trying to give like the reality, like from the concept of like drone mapping for humanitarian action, how it's actually happening on ground since 2019 in India. So like a gist of it. So the problem what we are identified, like as in what we are witnessing is like not the availability of the tools, but again, the access of the tools to the right people at the right time. And also most of the critical decision making is depending on the data at various level, and spatial data is one of the main parameters out of that. So often what we see community or like the local organization being the first responder on ground during a humanitarian response in different cycles of a disaster management, but they often lack access to the technologies, and there's like a huge gap between the academia, the technology perspective, and what is actually happening on ground. So they lack the drone technology, they lack the skilled operators, they don't have the skill like first responders on ground, and also they don't have the specific data which they can use for their advocacy rights and entitlements to their stakeholders. And also thus say a post-disaster assessment, how it's actually happening, all the technologies will be flying from somewhere else of the country and to the ground maybe after weeks after a event, and then we'll be having all the assessments. So this continued dependence on the external actors also delays the response and also the effectiveness of the response. So how we are trying to do that is actually to make that shift from not just the access to the technology, but how the local people can own the technology by their own, which they can use it. So for that, we actually try to identify potential areas, try to identify potential organization, and we train local drone pilots and try to link it with the existing government schemes, which they can get access to the devices, which they can use it by themselves for multiple causes, including National Disaster Management Authority and all the disaster management framework globally is actually putting pressure, not putting pressure, but like trying to emphasize the use of technology for the disaster management. And so we are actually trying to decentralize and localize the whole technologies, which will enable a rapid deployment on ground. And also, not only like how people can use it, but like as Bernard also said, like how this all can be feed to the overall knowledge available for the overall decision making at country level. So the impact, what we are seeing from 2019 onwards, just to give a gist, we started using it in 2019 for cyclone post-disaster assessments, and then actually moved to the COVID response, and also even at the preparedness level. So at almost all cycles of disaster management, the impacts we are seeing is like what we are observing is technology is not just tools. Technology means here drones is not just tools. It's actually the whole decision support system for the entire ecosystem. And maybe can, of course, Narendra sir will be giving like a bit more details of it, but like to give a gist of impacts also. It actually supported in the preparedness and climate action. Say for example, like the Sundarbans is one of the climate hotspot, and we have mapped the mangrove to understand the resilience of the community, which Narendra sir will be explaining a bit in a minute, and also Majuli, which one of the largest riverine island in the world, which is shrinking in a very rapid rate. So we actually mapped the rate of erosion, rate of river erosion for past 30 years and projected for next 10 years, like till 2030 or 2035, and had that conversation with the community and the government. Okay, this is what going to happen if the rate continues, and don't make any construction infrastructure or don't make any investment at that point at in these areas. That's like how we are like trying to enable the preparedness and climate action, and also at the response and early action. COVID, it was like a massive outbreak like all over the world, as we all know, and we have enabled the drone deployment across multiple states of India. I don't want to get into the name of states, but like for the public awareness, for surveillance, and also for the disinfection, which actually reduce the frontline exposure in coordination with the government and all other stakeholders and duty bearers. And also for the recovery and assessment, we have done drone-based post-disaster need assessment across disasters, including Assam flood and multiple cyclones in the West Bengal, like Cyclone Bulbul, Amphan, etc., and which actually enable the rapid high-resolution damage insights. So right now, I will hand over to Narendra sir to have a deep delve into how we actually done this.
Thanks, Nahid, and thanks, Humanitarian OpenStreetMap and ADRRN. So I'm just trying to complement here what Nahid was actually presenting. And let me also make it, just try to be a bit loud that we are trying to consolidate the potential of drones here, actually. Because we have started using the drones since 2019 onwards, and then we have seen a huge potential in the drone technology. So we started it from the while responding to some of the major cyclones in the different coastal regions, and then we moved to responding to COVID-19 with the logistic drones, where we did a multi stakeholders partnerships collaborations with the government, and our objective was to spray the the disinfectants in the most of the areas, and it was night operations, so we used the 15 kg payload logistic drones, and these disinfectants was recommended by the WHO by the time. And our night operations was across 3 cities in Odisha. That was one of our pilot locations where we wanted to see that how useful this technology is actually. And it did, we did it really well, and along with that disinfectant spraying during the night time, in the daytime, we used a highly acoustic, we what do you call it? We installed a highly acoustic the highly decibel acoustic device into the drones, and we fly the drones over the cities along with the high resolution sensors to identify the hot spots where the people gathering was happening, And that was one of the major concern by the government, that wherever the gatherings are happening, we should make them to disseminate, and to move away from each others. So this is what we were doing in collaboration, in partnership with the local police. So it was a complete mechanisms in terms of having the acoustic devices, and then surveillance sensors, and then police officials, and then also the live streaming for the key decisions makers. So this is how we were just trying to responding to uh, COVID-19 in Odisha. And yeah, so now this, let me also talk about this image. We used a drone for mangrove mapping, and also to map out the or to understand the structural vulnerability of embankment, because we did this in Sundarban, and Sundarbans are the islands, and most of their villages are confined by water bodies. So it's a very important. I mean, it was very important for us to understand, because most of these villages covers approximate. I mean, they hold the population of around 5,000, 6,000, and their geographical area is also vast. And most, I mean, all these islands are surrounded by water body, and the protective barrier, or the wall, is the embankment. So we got the 30 centimeter resolutions data from the drone. We used the optical sensors. We got this data, and we were able to see very, I mean, at the very micro level, that where the embankment is having the less vegetation on the offside, and where in the inland the community resides, what is the proximity of that. So we were just trying to understand the structural the structural characteristics of the embankment, whether it's pakka, I mean, it's cemented, or it's with the made by the local material where the cement and other concrete has not been used, and what is the percentage of mangrove exist, or the vegetation exist, and how far in the inland, towards inland, the community resides. So we did, and you can see in our legends that the red indicates that these particular patches, the stretch is the highly vulnerable, the red color, and the moderately and then moderately vulnerable. So we identify this using the drone imagery. So that was one of the major, I mean, we were doing the DRR, disaster risk reduction exercise, and that is one of the output of that. And we discussed, we delineate, or we identified, we marked this vulnerability with the help of community. It was not just like, and because we took the privilege of having a 30 centimeter optical data with us, which were giving us very clear clarity of what exists where in terms of the 30 centimeter dimension of object on the ground. So that was wonderful. Nahit, next. Yeah. And as Nahit said in the beginning, that while we responding to Cyclone Bulbul, so all these images are from the. I can understand that. I mean, you must be seeing only the yellow color pins, but uh, then we also did the I mean, we also did the quantify. I mean, we quantified the damage and loss with the help of this data, actually, because this data was giving us the very I mean, the clarity in terms of how many boats. I mean, when the cyclone hit, how many boats were there on the embankment or on the seashore, and how many boats got damaged. What are the different places I mean, what are the different stretches of the places where embankment got damaged? How many houses got damaged? So we come up with the of course, there are three for the embankment, boards, and toilets. So we did a very comprehensive, extensive mapping of the affected areas, and we came up with the analysis that how many boat got damaged, and what each what each boat actually costs to the fishermen. What is the cost of that? So we tried to quantify that. And similarly for the toilets and the cost, the construction cost of the embankment, that if it is a 100-meter or the 50-meter length of the embankment, so how much does it cost? So we tried to come up with the the quantification with the help of this uh, drone data. So this is where in the beginning I said that we are just trying to analyze the potential of the the drone, and our focus is on consolidating the potential of drone technology. Yes, Nahid, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for that. Just to continue, like So what we have done as part of locally led implementation is like, as just mentioned earlier, we actually trained drone pilots, including women. As like there were like 3 women like part of the like drone pilot training, which they got certificate and they eventually get like merged to the local scheme who will be providing drones. And even like government of India have like a scheme called Drone Didi, which is actually supporting women for like enabling them with drone for their agricultural use. So like government is also pushing for that. So we have already trained three like not like drone pilots in the year of 2020, I think, and also even enable local like deployment of drone by local NGOs and the responders, but for demonstrating the decentralized drone operations across the country. And it's not only like we are doing it like, but it's like enabled through the strong partnership we have coordinated with almost all the government agencies like responsible for the disaster management and also the humanitarian action during crisis, including the state disaster management authority and the administration, and even national disaster management authorities actually emphasizing the technological use, and the local organizations, the community institutions, and even the academical institutions for the analysis, and the technological partners. Even like the image also shows how we actually, as Narendra sir also mentioned, how we actually done the disinfection at night in coordination with the police authorities of the state. So even like right now, we are also trying to have like establish like a drone hub with ADRRN and its partners. And what we are again identifying and we really want to emphasize is like it's not a standalone solution. If we are coordinating, we can have like a ecosystem ready to scale as part of drone. So just like to have a just again with ADRRN hub, we are actually trying to establish a regional system of drone hub across Asia Pacific region, and which actually can enable a rapid locally drone deployment within 24 to 48 hours. For that, we are identifying the humanitarian organization how the potential and also are willing to or who already have done drone deployments during different cycles of their operation, and also the pool of drone agencies across Asia Pacific region who can deploy their drones with multiple capacities for search and rescue, for whatever, with multiple sensors and multiple payload capacities during a disaster and during different cycles of the disaster within no time. And also how we can actually integrate this drone ecosystem like drone operations to the mainstream disaster preparedness and anticipatory action system. And right now, I'm again handovering to Narendra sir to explain more about how we are going about it and the collaboration. Thank you.
Thanks, Nahid. So on part of collaborations, can you, yeah, thank you so much. And we are really grateful to ADRRN and then CIDRA and then CWS that who provided us this opportunity to come up with because I mean in this presentations we have also included our research project which we have currently undertaken with the help of CIDRA and ADRRN and CWS, you know. And as Nahid said, that we have identified 3 different segments of this space, of the areas where we are trying to understand the challenges, the gaps, and their potential, their competencies, so that we can come up with a strategy that how everyone can complement and everyone can actually make support. And I also remember that when Mr. Suraj Gautam was presenting, he has emphasized the lack of special data sets, and and this is where that clicked in my mind that this project is completely focused on that we want to understand the different challenges being faced by the humanitarian organizations when it comes to the emergency deployment. Why are they not able to deploy? And why, and what is the role of the drone technology in that particular time? And in the last slide, what Nahit has and we are just trying to emphasize that we want to make sure that in future the drone deployment should happen between 24 to 48 hours, and that's why we are trying to take the insights and the perspectives of the government agencies who are responsible for policy making and then regulatory framework permissions. That why, because we are taking the different experience from the humanitarian agencies, that where are they failing, why are they not able to do it when it comes to the emergency deployment. So we want to consolidate all these three different experience at one place, and we want to come up with the a launch of the strategy that I mean, in order, if we really need to respond the emergencies immediately within a least possible time, so how can we actually make sure that that the emergency can be responded. So and we would be looking forward this interoperability data sets uh, arrangements, and also to work with the government and with the humanitarian organization and with the drone agencies together. So we would like to launch our research most probably in the June or July, where we would like to invite all the stakeholders who participated and those who have not also participated but also interested to learn about it. So with this, I would like to take pause. Nahid, thanks.
Thank you. And stop sharing.
Okay, so we finished our presentations.
Oh,
Thank you
all
so
right.
much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, wonderful. And we truly value your leadership and initiative of this drone hub. It's very important for ADRN, and we'll make sure that they become successful and create that ecosystem in our region. So look forward to working on that together. Bernard, we have a Mentimeter, right, to have some interaction with the participants. So shall we roll that out?
Yes, excited too. Let me share my screen. So feel free to scan the QR code for those that have not, or you could also access the Mentimeter link on the chat itself. And I'm gonna give you about 1 to 2 minutes to start to sign on. I have about 12 people, but I know we have about 50 participants. Okay, let me know if y'all are facing any issues on the chat itself, if y'all need any help. But yes, the more the merrier. We're excited to see what our dear participants have, what your understanding is, what your struggles are, so that we can better inform our next steps. Okay, about 24. Once it hits about 30, I will move on. Sorry, bad week. Oh my God. Okay, 2 more. I hope you don't mind if I take a lot in this. Okay, let's go. Feel free to also connect on, if you are still trying to connect, you still can. The QR code is right on the side. Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, our first question is actually interesting question. How many weeks do you think it takes community leaders to learn how to operate a drone and to process the drone imagery? So it's not just operating a drone, but also processing a complex technical component of the whole drone mapping, which is processing the drone imagery. Okay, I know some of you are thinking, why isn't there any answers? I don't want to let each other, I don't want to let participants influence each other. So only when I click the response, I will show it. So we have about 22. Maybe once it hits 25, I will show you all what the answers are. I see that at 39 participants, I'm encouraging more to join. Okay, why not? Let's just go. Okay, so we have about 2 weeks, 4 weeks is one of the highest, and 10 weeks. Okay, we have about 25 answers. Please continue to share your opinion as I respond. So from HOT's perspective, I'm going to invite perhaps Nahid or Narendra to share their perspective, or Shuraj later. Just very quickly, your response, your opinion on this question itself. But for HOT, and about last month in Timor-Leste, we held training of trainers for community leaders. These are coastal communities. And we conducted training for them on how to not just use the drone to operate the drone, but also to process the drone imagery. And it took them 1 week. 1 week of training for them to be able to operate the drone, conduct drone mapping on the seagrass habitats itself, and produce quality outputs from the drone imagery, from the drone mapping. So 1 week, 1 week, and I guess only one person got it right. Close lah, 1 to 5 people. So perhaps very quickly, I start with IHRR before I pass this on to Narendra. Perhaps, like in your experience, how long does it take to train your community?
Uh, Thank Bernard. So, to my experience and to my mind, probably it should take some considerable amount of time, and we believe that because in India there are different sorts of customized curriculum, which is designed by the DGCA, Director General of Civil Aviation, and we actually need to follow that standard timeline. And then there are different modules when we talk about the drone operations, actually how to make them to fly the drones or to operate the drones. Probably it takes almost to conduct this training and to make them, and giving the repetitive exercise, probably it takes 2 to 3 weeks times for us, to design the entire. And as far as the data interpretation and data processing, so data processing is not that much difficulty when you take the data from the drone and to put it in your system somewhere and to but the data analysis and data interpretation actually takes time, when we need to understand the different characteristics of the features, as I was explaining that embankment vulnerability, that how do we need to identify where the embankment is vulnerable, and with the help of community, probably that takes time actually, to average for me, I think it takes at least 6 to 8 weeks times.
Okay. 6 to 8 weeks. Suraj?
Yeah, I just voted for 7 weeks. I'm very much in line with what Narendra ji said. So basically, again, it's about the ethical guidelines and to stick with all the process, because it's not just about flying drone or doing such things like that. So it has to come through a very iterative process as well, and also the proactivism of the community leaders also matters. Besides, I think regarding the drone flying and everything, it could be like if we can use some kind of simulators or something like that, and have a very structured course. It won't take even a week, I suppose, to make them fly the drones. But again, when it comes to data handling, developing proper outputs, that is very much like what kind of things that we are going to achieve from that data. So that is something we need to be very specific. So on that note, I think it's not just the training, but to also make them aware about what those data can speak, or what does it can visualize. That will take a bit of time. So I would also go for like 6 to 8 weeks. I voted for 7-1.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. But I think thanks a lot for sharing. And obviously, I think Zahura and Matt also mentioned that it really depends on the literacy level on the ground itself. So before I move on to the next question, I think what this really demonstrates is that at the end of the day, it really depends on not just the community on the ground, but of course on the kind of detail and expertise that we would like to train the communities on. But I'm glad that Suraj and Narendra agrees on a very basic level to be able to operate a drone, to be able to process the drone imagery. It's honestly not that inaccessible. It takes a bit of training, and then of course we can continue to work with them iteratively and build onto their training to become licensed drone pilots that are recognized in your countries, in Nepal, in India, in Timor-Leste, for example. But the point is, it's not 10 weeks. Okay, let's move on. And it's lagging a little for me. Okay, again, I have 41 participants. Please feel free to join using the QR code on the screen itself. So now, I would like you to rank on your screens itself 2 different statements. From strongly disagree to strongly agree. The first statement is map data is not helpful for non-technical grassroots organizations who work on the ground with communities. The second statement is drones and high-resolution mapping are simply too expensive and difficult for local grassroots organizations to work with. I'm very interested to see what everyone's responses are. Again, I'm not going to release the answers yet, perhaps around 15, and I'll start to add. Okay. So I guess I'm happy to know that most of our participants agree that map data it's extremely useful. It's not only for technical engineering based organization, but everyone can benefit from good updated map data. The drones part is a bit where I guess everyone is in between. Right smack in the center between disagree and agree. I think like what Suraj and Narendra have shared just now, like of course, when it comes to drones, you have a distinct and diverse range of capabilities. The question is, do you want to conduct temperature assessments using drones? And that would be like in the tens of 20 of thousands. But if you just want to focus on just capturing imagery, sometimes a simple low-cost drone like DJI Mini Pro 5, I think, about USD $1,000, will allow you to be able to capture updated imagery on a more frequent basis, on a weekly basis over the course of 1 year. So it is possible to look at low-cost, accessible technologies to help you with drones and high-resolution mapping. From my experience, okay, I'm not going to invite our speakers for every single question because I know I'm running out of time already, so I'm going to speed run through. Okay, quickly. True or false? You need a strong continuous internet connection to capture and process map data on the field. Very quickly. I think once I hit about 10 people, I'll open. Okay. Yes, I'm excited to see more and more people saying it's false. And there are still some that are saying it's true. Of course, with quite a number of different technologies out there, you want internet connection. But there are also increasingly more and more technologies out there that allow you to collect data offline to help map certain villages, certain settlements that are rural without internet connection, and to be then able to upload the internet connection once you have reached back to town or the city, once you have a more stable internet connection itself. For our speakers for ADRN, if you want to add on to what I'm saying, please just add on to the chat. I'm sorry I cannot invite so many people to chat. I'm running out of time. Okay, okay, this one is important. I'm going to give you a few minutes. I want our participants to tell us like what are the hazards that you are working with that you feel right now urgently needs better, more localized map data. So please add as much as you can. It's not just a one response. I'm gonna spend a bit more time on this slide. I'm gonna release it once it's about 10. 10 responses. Okay, while I wait for others, I'm going to respond to Zahur Ahmed. I agree. There are certain areas that also have restrictions from the local authorities on whether or not you can fly drones. And I'm also excited about what ADRRN will be working with HAI and the Narendra and Nahid to look at all of the different policies in the region itself. Sometimes it's also about how do you work with the local authorities to seek approval to fly certain drones. Because at the end of the day, all of us here are working for the for the betterment of the local communities. And if we are able to secure buy-in from the authorities, it's easier to go ahead with the drone mapping. Okay, I'm going to show my answers, the answers. Okay, so I think flood and landslides are one of the biggest. We have earthquakes, evacuation to open spaces. I think that's something that we also continue to hear about the needs on the ground itself. Where are the evacuation routes? Where are the routes that are available so that we can work with the communities to plan it out? We have erosion, human-wildlife conflict. That's a very interesting point. Um, Flash floods, earthquake, cyclones, and displaced persons. Okay, thanks a lot. You can continue to add on as I move on to the other slide. Just come back to this slide. Next slide. Okay, again, very quickly, I want to invite everyone to tell us a little more about what's your biggest challenge right now. Is it funding? Is it capacity? Is it availability of data itself? Or is it regulations and policies? So very quickly, so far I have 0 answers. Okay, 2 answers. Once it hits about 10, I will show the answers. I think as we look forward to the answers from the participants, I will share one from Hot's perspective. I think one of the biggest challenges is the lack of hyperlocal data. Remote sensing, for example, satellite imagery. Analysis from satellite imagery can be great, but it's usually very broad-based. It's usually on the province or the district level, simply because you want high resolution spatial analysis from satellite imagery is just too expensive. So what this means is that the communities will know that, hey, in this province, I know that it's a bit risky, but I don't know which of the village is the most risky, for example. And this kind of hyperlocal data is something that we're excited about in working with communities to be able to collect the data. Okay. I mean, coming off 2025, I get it. I think the funding will continue to be one of the biggest challenges. And on our end, besides working with different funders and partners to look for funding, it's also about reducing the cost of the technologies and the drones itself. I'm also excited to see the lack of technical training and capacities, which I know Narendra and Nahid spoke about quite a bit. I'm excited to see how ADRRN and the team will work together to develop more training materials. And at HOT, we're also excited to see how we can contribute. Okay, now this is the end of the Mentimeter portion. We'll continue to stick onto the Mentimeter as we move into Q&A. This allows some of our participants to be able to not just share the questions on the chat itself, but also through Mentimeter, and I believe allowing the rest of us to respond. Takeshi.
All right, Bernard, very interesting Mentimeter. Thank you so much for that. I believe most of the questions in the chat have been addressed by the speakers, but if any of the participants have additional questions or follow-on questions that you would like to ask, please feel free to speak up. Or if any of the speakers have any points to add, please feel free as well. Any questions, any thoughts? Hey, Bernard, you can take off the screen share now. Narendra?
Okay.
Yes, please.
Thanks. So just following the Mentimeters and yes, I think I have something to complement here is that why the access to data and technology actually takes time, because remote sensing or the satellite imageries has its own pros and cons, and whereas the drone data has its own pros and cons. So where we can get the better quality pictures with the high resolutions. At the same time, sometimes it's a very expensive. But when we look at, as Bernard said, that it may cost 1000 USD. But if you look at the India, I mean, in the Indian context, if I talk about, so the policy does not allow at this point of time us to import the drones from any other countries. So the major focus, the emphasis of the government is that you should have your own drone. I mean, make in India. So we have a make in India slogan, which emphasize that whatever you want to produce here in India, and you use it. So in that case, the cost automatically gets up. So we have the I mean the expensive drones here. Second thing is that India is actually the entire country is divided into three different zones, and I believe that most of the countries have their own zonations in terms of flying and the data mapping. So we have the red zone, green zone, and orange zone. So wherever it is green zone, probably you can go, you can fly without permission. But again, then we have also categorized our drones. So I mean, ranging from the nano drone to micro drone, small drone, medium drone, and then large drone. So again, I mean, it depends that where are you operating and whether you are eligible to operate it or not. So we have several bottlenecks, constraints in terms of uh, procuring the drones, regulatory framework, and then in case of any emergencies, the time taken. And yes, Bernard, I'm taking your inputs into considerations, that we are talking with the we are having the KII. We are conducting the key informant interviews with the government officers, the drone agencies, and then humanitarian organizations, to understand then why it takes time and what is the solutions. I mean, what solutions do you think that can actually help us? Yeah, so this is just I wanted to add, Takeshi. Thanks.
Thank you, Narendra. That regulation bit is an important factor. Bernard, in your trainings, that when you guys do this drone trainings, do you factor in these things also, like how the participants work around the regulation issues?
I think for us, how we usually approach projects like this, it's from the very get-go, from the very kickoff itself, we try to mobilize government stakeholders. Frankly, at the end of the day, I wouldn't say that we are very confident in being able to reach to the right stakeholder in the right government agency. But working with, for example, a public health agency or a waste management agency, they would help us, work with us to take lead in getting the right permissions and the right regulatory application process going. And in this case, for us, I agree with Narendra. I think in the Asia Pacific region itself, the regulatory framework for drone mapping continues to be very strict, and rightfully so. And as we all know, in light of recent events, global events, we can expect continued stricter regulations going forward. So at the end of the day, it's about working with the government and getting their help
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
So yeah, focusing on creating such ecosystem from the beginning, working very closely with the local government and keeping them engaged. I think it's important. I think there was a question which I think Danish, you responded already, but there was a question about how to strengthen the relationship with NDMAs.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you
Yes.
have any additional
Yeah, thank
thoughts.
you so much. I was just scrolling my internet if anything is accessible to Pakistan, but luckily, like NDMA and then our provincial and then disaster risk management authorities, that they are like permitted to use the drone, especially for the glove monitoring, especially to use in the emergency and rescue services. But for commercial and for private flying, it's banned in Pakistan since 2026 February. So the question that he asked, it's about that how you're building partnerships. So our partnerships has layers. Like we mainly focus on our community voices narratives, and we share with our like district management authorities that these are the issues and these are the advocacy concerns, and then we build through these advocacy points from disaster to the provincial and then provincial to the national level. So our partnerships based on continuous follow and we make sure that our like partners, including from public and private sectors, they are not at the receiver's end. They should contribute equally and they should take the ownership of their work. Like in case that we give exposure visit to GBDMN, to this PDMA and SIN, to different parts of Punjab, because Punjab is more enriched and influenced with like lot of technology and this anticipatory risk reduction techniques. So they just shared us the plan with NDMA that they are having this currently lack of services, they are out of technology, they are having these hindrances and issues. So we are basically the advocacy building blocks between this department, starting advocacy with different various government. So I think once you invest on them, then definitely a follow up, and just to keep asking them that what next? What next? It's very important point in terms of building high level advocacy and strengthen your relationships with government. So yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you, Danish. And I absolutely agree that from my experience also, having that sort of technical assistance bit or technical assessment and technical assistance, I think that really helps in building that strong relationship with the local level, because that's at the local government level, you know, they are looking for such collaboration from technical agencies. Bernard, you have your hand up.
I just want to quickly share that I agree that this local level partnership is the priority. It's not the technology, it's not drones that it's the priority when it comes to projects like this. So one very quick example that I would share, I just want to quickly share my screen, is that, for example, in Timor-Leste, it's about understanding that, and perhaps in other regions, it's about understanding what are the local requirements and what is allowed. In this case, in Timor-Leste, drone mapping is allowed. But in other regions where drone mapping is strictly not allowed and we cannot get approvals, we have an alternative complementary tool called Mapillary, where it's like a Google Street View, where you work with your communities, you work with your staff to use your mobile phone to collect 360-degree photographs on the ground itself. And this is a good replacement for drone mapping if not available, allowing you to have very intimate understanding of what's happening on the ground itself and to help you map out certain features. So I guess my point in sharing this is that the technology is not the end goal. And being able to work with your community to understand what they are capable of handling, what they are familiar with, working with your stakeholders and your government to understand the data ecosystem, the technology ecosystem, and then finding the right tool to work with them, it's for me the priority. Yeah.
Right. Thanks for that. This tool that you just talked about, this 360 thing, does that also produce like digitized data, or does that just produce the images and the videos?
So at this point, it's just 360 imagery. I do know that there are a lot of universities and technology institutions, organizations out there that are interested in using AI and ML to help automatically classify all of the different features you see in the 360. For example, right now, I think the most advanced one is that if I have this 360 video photographs, like Google Street View, I walk through a street, they can use SAM, I think, to be able to help identify where the buildings are. So that this is one of the most advanced models out there. I think there are others that are also looking at lampposts, trees, for example. But anything more detailed than that, like, I don't know, benches, it's a bit not there yet. But the easiest buildings, I think reliable models.
I see. I see. Maybe sometime in the near future it could generate like digital elevation model complementary data with such photographs, maybe.
Definitely.
Samira, did you have your hand up while Bernard was speaking earlier? Samira from
because the experience I had, it was already shared, so I didn't want to repeat it. The same like for trendy, like using the drone in community level. You know the context of Afghanistan, like all the community people or the leaders that we are working with, they are not in the level to learn, like province to province, even district to district. It's very different. It's very like the literacy level is very important when it comes to using the drone and train them. So in Afghanistan, it might take maybe 6 to 8 weeks if we really want to build the capacity of the community to utilize or use systematically the drones and other data collection. For the data collection and other things, maybe it will not take much time, but for using drones, like looking to the literacy level of each community is very different.
And
because
maybe
we have
enough. Yeah, sorry. Maybe in Afghanistan, I'm thinking that before the training actually starts in the communities, maybe more of that sort of awareness raising and so sensitization, community mobilization needs to be done more carefully because the
Yeah.
communities in certain areas in Afghanistan have been uh, observing drones as very negative thing, right?
Yeah,
Attacking
and
them
the other
instead of helping them.
you also, working with the local authorities is very important because we have to take permission. Like using the drones and these things is in most of the country is not like allowed by the local authorities, especially in Afghanistan when it comes. Even we had the GPS to use the GPS for our classes, but then the facto authority says that you are not allowed to do this, so they just stop this process for using the GPS and also for using the drone and these also, and also awareness of the facto authority and local authority is very important. Then we have to come to the local community, because if we couldn't convince the local authority, then it's not easy to do the awareness program, because we also have like this restriction on the advocacy and awareness of some of the awareness programs from the government side, that we are not allowed unless we have to give a brief and detailed information to them and convince them, and then we are allowed to
Right.
start our next step.
And such ecosystem, I think, needs to be built in prior, not when the emergency or disaster actually strikes, but before the disaster strikes. So there could be with the national DRR platforms, there could be these like sharing of the drone imagery, doing the joint analysis of the landslide, risk analysis, for example, making it like multi-sectoral, stakeholder engagement ecosystem being built beforehand.
Building
Otherwise,
trust among different stakeholders is very important.
yeah,
Building
exactly,
that trust,
including,
then when we have the support of different stakeholders, then we can take the next step. So then training
yes,
is easy.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. So it's not only the service provider of a specific technical agency, but creating that ecosystem in the country, it's something that we need to focus on. I
Yeah,
think it's
that's
very
very difficult,
informative.
because in the response, when we are doing any response, even in emergency, for a
Mm,
month we have to do the coordination and the kind of awareness, and to have the support of the local authority and also the ministries. It's
yeah,
very difficult. Like response is very difficult in Afghanistan. Like it takes time, while we have to do the response like within 24 hours, but no, it's not the
right.
case.
Yeah, 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 indeed. Yeah, but something to look at. With the humanitarian reset discussion, there are lots of expectation for local organizations who are engaged in the humanitarian coordination system in the country. And so, these are the things that have not been done in the past, but maybe because it's localized, these mechanisms can be put in place in the existing humanitarian coordination mechanism. Maybe it could be something that
But
we
the
could
issue
advocate
in
for.
countries like Afghanistan is that, in other countries in the reset, the government is involved. But in Afghanistan, in the reset, government is not involved, even because previously we had in the coordination platforms that we had at the regional level, we also had
Yeah,
the representation of the government. But now they
yeah.
are excluded from this process. So this is another
Ah,
challenge for us.
I see. I see. Bernard?
Thanks a lot for sharing that, Samira, and I appreciate the kind of honest feedback on the challenges that you're facing in Afghanistan. This is also slightly related to the question that Danish received. So I'm not going to name the country, but in one of the conflict-affected countries in the region in Southeast Asia, one of the advice that I had was, when it comes to drone mapping, that it's not approved or allowed in the country itself. And for a humanitarian organization, you also don't want to create open drone, high resolution drone imagery that could be used by malicious actors. One of the advice that we received was instead to work with a local humanitarian organization that has been in close connection and partnership with the local government to be able to help push through some of these approval processes, and to work with them to conduct the drone mapping. And then you'll find that hey, with these entry points, you are able to go down on the ground quickly to be able to activate your drones to support disaster response. So yeah, I mean, I agree with Takeshi. I think and Samira that across the region there is a lot of different differences, and I'm interested to see how Narendra and his team will develop the right and identify the right entry points and protocols. Yeah.
Right. As a next step, I'm be mindful of the time. We need to finish off now, but I mean, this is the start of our conversation. But I kind of thought it would be very, very interesting to explore the joint training organized by ADRN's Innovation Hub and also other colleagues who are working on this and Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, bringing together what we have already and then sort of create, different modules for our stakeholders and members and partners. Um, and maybe we can, this regional humanitarian partnership is going to happen again this year around the same time. So we could maybe use before RHBW or after RHBW to do such trainings or, you know, and maybe if we work together with some academic institutions, say in Thailand, for example, AIT, then we may be able to use some of the facilities that we can actually fly drones in Thailand. Um, what do you think about exploring such step?
Hey, I just very quickly. We have an upcoming retreat for HOT itself where we are planning to trial the entire end-to-end mapping process with our colleagues. So this is an experiential event allowing them to get into contact with all of the different tools that we're using, including drone mapping. With IHBW, perhaps then this is a great opportunity for one session, perhaps like you mentioned, in the field itself, to be able to test out what drone piloting is and how accessible it can be. And then suddenly our communities on the ground have, with understanding what is available, allows them to open up uh, their challenges to even more tech-based solutions, perhaps. I think at HOT, we're also excited to see how we could support that.
Excellent.
I think that's a very good idea. So there is also an extension center of AIT that is working on drones. So we can also actually tie up with them. I had a meeting last time when I was there in RSPW. So we're also doing some training programs. We did some in Bhutan, and also we are doing some training programs in Nepal and also beyond. So I think it's a good idea that we can come up with a very specific curriculum, and then we can like have a joint collaboration. So really looking forward to it. I think that's a very good idea, Takeshi.
Excellent. Then let's get into the planning for such training in December. We got some time to plan, but I think it would be good to start planning now. So let's do that. The other thing I would also flag is because many of our colleagues today expressed that flooding and also landslide are some of the key disaster types that they're working on. And I think, Suraj, your experience with these landslide monitoring and flood mapping and analysis, and other colleagues, CWSA colleagues also have been doing that in Pakistan in the low-lying area in Sindh province, as well as in the mountainous areas in Bamiyan, Afghanistan, and so on. So I think maybe we can do more deep dive sessions into the specific hazard, what kind of mapping and analysis have been useful in raising these community resilience against, flooding risks and also landslide risks. And maybe we can do a series of that. Today, we only gave you like 15 minutes, so you had to like rush through your presentation and, like give a snapshot. But I think the beauty is really in the how part, in the methodology that you guys use. So maybe let's come up with these deep dive modules on flooding and landslide also. Yeah. Okay. Well, Thank you very much. Bernard, any last word from Hot Team before we close?
No, just thanks a lot for the wonderful insights, and happy to continue to work with all of you again in perhaps all of this deep dive and the next RHVW.
Excellent. Yeah, this is an excellent community of practice. Let's move this along. I look forward to working with all of you too. Thank you all very much for joining this webinar, and this will be continued, as you have heard. So we look forward to further continuing working with you.
Can
And
we
thank
do
you
a quick,
all very much.
can we do a quick
Yeah.
photo?
Oh, let's do a quick photo.
If
Yes,
that's
I'm
okay
sorry.
with everybody.
Yes, yes.
Can I request everybody to turn
Let's
off
forget.
their cameras? I'll just give it a couple of seconds. Everybody turn on their cameras. Okay, thank you. Keep smiling. Thank you very much. Got it.
Thank you, Remya.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay,
everyone.
thank you all so much. We'll
Yeah,
stay in
thank
touch.
you,
See you all soon.
ADRRN, the Hot
Great
Team.
presentations.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bernard. Yeah.